Welcome back to this tutorial on setting up vehicles with a new system in PostScriptum. So in this video we are going to focus on the actual weaponry, the UI, everything that you need to do with guns that is for the gunner, the hull gun, etc, etc. So let's dive right into it. So the Koenigs Tiger is using a fairly similar loadout than the Tiger itself. So I have copied over the entire projectile folder here. So we have heat, APCBC, APCR, and an HC round, and each one of them have their own curves for their behavior, how fast they drop, how much metal they can penetrate, how bouncy they are, how much drag curves, and also how much shattering, so how likely the shell is to shatter. So I've copied all of this into that folder, so now we're going to disregard the tiger and just focus on here. So the first thing we need to do is in each one of those shells is to assign their curves, because when you copy over some content to your content, it is going to still be referencing the old curve. So we need to basically plug these curves into these new shells. So let's start with the APCBC, which would be this one. Yes, okay, so that would be the APCBC. I'm going to type in here curve, and then I'm going to replug those three curves here. APCBC, there should be 4 curves, so one is missing. So it is the bounce angle here, then we have the drag curve here, we have the penetration distance curve here, and we have the shatter curve, and I think it was just here, so it went missing on the tiger. So actually it would be a good idea to fix it for the tiger. It won't take long. APCBC curve, yes, and here we just bring APCBC shatter curve, done. Let's go back to our tutorial on APCBC. Okay, so now I have all my curves set. We are going to do the next one, APCR. This one here. So curve again. I'm going to plug in, so this is APCR for the King Tiger. Yes, so bounce angle here, drag, penetration over distance, and the shatter. Yes, so that's done. Then heat. I don't have, because the heat is using another base, and all of these curves we use the default one. I mean, the way the projectile is going to behave is different, so we can disregard this, or we can plug the one from the APCBC. So we can plug the APCBC, but again, the behavior of that curve is going to be differently used. So okay, this, the drag, the penetration distance here, and there is no shattering on such shell, so we can save this one and move on. Then we have the, oh yeah, that's the old one. We'll need the HE shell next. So here we have a lot less curve for HE because it's either bouncing or exploding. So we only have like a bounce one and a drag one for the velocity on how quickly it's going to drop. So everything else is irrelevant. So now I'm going to save it. Okay, so now I've set all of my curves. We can go into the weaponry here. The weaponry checklist, so the weaponry in the turret pound BP. So now I can open my turret pound. So I'm going to this asset, and this is the one we copied a few hours back, the turret seat. So in the turret seat, I have a lot of things to do actually. Let's take that in order. We've kind of covered it in the one of the video, but let's do it again. We need to go into, just looking for something interesting, config. So config is like the old system, so it's where it's no longer really used in the new system, but it has to be here so it can behave properly with the old vehicles. So config we can sort of disregard, but it's important to know it's here. Then we have the turret slow, turret fast, which was wrong. We fixed it on the past system. So the slow one is the, when you control scroll, and then when you control scroll up, you switch to hydraulic, or if it's a fully manual turret, you can just rename this to manual and set the same sounds here as here. But in our case, it's hydraulic, and the sounds are properly set. So it would also be a good measure to make sure the tiger was properly set up, because I'm fairly confident it was not. So it's tiger here. And it is in a turret slow. I think it was using the Allied sound, so that would not be correct on the German tank. Yes, so let's just quickly fix it for good measure, and we'll move on. Okay, done. Save. So now we're done with the turret sounds. We can keep working our way down. This is the sound that it makes when it reloads, how fast the gun is. So to check this, I'm just going to look at the old system because I don't remember it from the top of my head. So it's going to be the Koenigs Tiger. And let's see how fast the fire rate was in the old system. Time between shots, 10 seconds. Okay. So the reloading time is 10 seconds. This is the message that it says when your barrel is hitting a wall or something. It's going to say you cannot fire. Then we have turret here, so how fast the turret is, and the elevation, so how much down and up the turret can go. So again, I don't remember it, so I'm going to check in the old system. This is a conversion, so it's going to be in turret, and it is going to be in pitch. So it was -8 plus 15, okay, and the speed was 11 degrees per second. So 11 degrees per second here, max turret traverse speed. It's 6 increments, so that's how much increments you have between manual and hydraulic. We keep it default to 6 and 3. Then we have the sound. So that one, I'm not sure if this is used. This is the sound it makes when it traverses. This might be the external sound, I'm not entirely sure, just in case I have set it to the right one. Then UI, okay, so it's an MG34 inside, so this is for the coaxial gun, which is correct now. Primary weapon, so we have an APCBC, I'm going to make sure I'm using the Koenigs Tiger 1. Let's make sure we are doing that right. So right now I'm using the Tiger shell, which is not correct, so I have to make sure I plug the proper one. So APCBC here. Then we have the APCR, and then we have the HE and the heat. Then how many shells per type, then the effect that is going to be played at the end of the barrel, the sound that it makes when it fires. So I don't know if we have a bigger sound than a 75mm, so I can check in the old system for another sound. Let's see, Canon sound, what was the sound used? We do have a big one. So sound is going to be 88mm Q. Okay, so this is the primary gun. It is now set up. I'm going to save it. Then the coaxial is secondary weapon. So MG34 for the UI, it's 792mm. It's firing a 303 caliber. This you should not change. If this is just saying it's a rifle bullet, so it's going to injure people just like rifle would. We have 16 belts. We have a tracer every 2 bullets. We use this FX. The reload time is 10.6 seconds. Let's double check with the old system. Coax. Config. Yes, 10.3 is the reload time. 10.35. It's an MG34 sound. It's a 200 bullet belt. 300, oh, that's better. 300 bullets per mag, and the fire rate is this. So this is correct. And everything else you should not worry about. That's the logo you have when you heal yourselves. Now the turret should be fully set up. The next thing we need to do is actually set up our projectiles. So we've done the curve, but let's look at the first one in the list. Let's go with APCBC first. So APCBC, we have to worry about spalling. We don't change it, it's just how much spall there is. So the number is going to be bigger if it's a big caliber, and it's a smaller number if it's a smaller caliber. So this is a big caliber, so it's 15.5. Usually we change nothing here. Shattering, it's using the curve. Let's make sure it's using the Koenigsegger. It is using the Koenigsegger, so this is correct. Next thing we have to worry about the speed. So that's how fast it is. And then max speed, you keep it to 0. So it's only this line that needs to be changed. Then we have the drag curve that we've plugged. So it's the one from the Koenigsegger. Everything else, we keep it default. Explosion settings, we keep it default as well. Ooh, okay, I think we're missing the flyby sound. So this is not right. Just a bit laggy. Small shell flyby, medium shell flyby, large shell flyby. Let's have a quick listen. Okay, so that also tells me that this sound is missing from every other shell in every other projectile. So this is something we should fix, that at least we as developers, we should fix this here. So I'm going to say flyby, and by default, I'm going to set the medium one, save this, and now every projectile should have a medium by default, and then it's up to you to put a medium, a heavy, or a small one. So now it's going to ask me to save some stuff. Let me, yes, save selected. Okay, suppression, keep default, impact, everything here stays default. The next thing we have to change is here. The name of the round, its type, and its icon. So if this is an APCBC, we have to make sure that this is actually, but right now it's an APHE, so let's see. Yeah, something was not set up right on the Tiger. Anyway, let's say it's an APCBC with the proper APCBC icon. And again, I will check that, sorry, that this is set correctly. This isn't right now, but at least you know the concept. And the last thing you need to do here is type in damage, and you have to make sure that both damage are set. One is for the vehicle, one is for the stats of the weapon. So it's supposed to be an 88mm AP and AP. Now I can save this. So you would actually do the same thing for the APCR. Just gonna edit this guy and edit this guy. Yes, just so for the flyby. Flyby medium. Okay, save. Okay, let's get back to our APCR. So here you would just do the exact same thing. Make sure you have the proper shells plugged in, the proper curves. You would have to check the speed and the UI. So the UI would be at the very end here. So it's the APCR. So it's a proper APCR icon, the proper name, proper type. And yeah, that would be this. And then the next thing you need to do is set up the HAL-MG. So the Hall MG, again, pretty similar stuff. Here you have the old config that we have to keep. The turret is how much left and right, up and down the gun can go. So it's set up here. Then you have the name of the MG, it's an MG34. Primary weapon, we don't have a primary weapon on this one. It's considered a secondary weapon for the MG. And then the UI, MG34, 14 belts, 200 munition per belt, the fire speed, and that's it. And then the UI when you are injured, so this should stay default. So setting up the MG should be fairly quick, then you can save, and then we'll do a quick round of testing. Just getting a scanner. Oh yeah, I forgot my keyboard. I'm gonna go right. So we do have the shell. We have APCBC, APCR, APHE, and HE, and we have our MG here with 300 munition per belt, 16 belts total. That's a lot of spawning. And then we can check the Hull MG, which is also correct. So let's do our checklist on weaponry, make sure we haven't forgotten anything. We set the turret rotation speed we have, it was 15 degrees, 11 degrees I think per second. Elevation, we've done it. The sound, we've done it for the hydraulic. The MG name UI, we set the primary weapon each round, the count. The weapon fire sound, we've changed it. The icon for the MG was already good. The caliber is correct. The amount of belt, the reload time of the MG, sounds for internal and external, we have done that. The size of the belt in the hull. The MG fire rate, all the curves, all the penetration distances. So let me show you this one. So in projectiles here, you have the penetration distance, and it's basically how much metal can you penetrate over distance. So this is done, the UI is done, the decal size to match the caliber, this one is done by default. It is just the glowy ring that varies. It's smaller for smaller caliber, so this one is 80 millimeters, so it's already set. The damage type in each projectile, that is the thing we've actually done a few seconds ago. It was making sure then that when you type in damage here, then it's AP and AP. It needs to be the same here and here, which is the case. The projectile velocity, so you type in speed, that's your projectile velocity right here. And assign the widget site to the MG. It is just some MG, they use a different site, so we are correct on this one to make sure it is. You go in here, and in the seat on the MG, it is the MG34 site. So this is correct. So that actually closed down on the weaponry, and with the weaponry we will just finish with the sounds, and then we will have a last video for the wrecks, and then from the wreck, when we're done with the wreck, we will just do a global Q&A, make sure the vehicle is fully functioning. So the sound, set the engine sound on the engine component. So this one, you go in the BP of the vehicle, you select the engine itself, that pink object here, and you type in sound. And here you have the engine, the sound it makes when you start the engine. In our case, it's using the Panzer 5. I don't think we had custom sounds for the Koenigs Tiger. No, we didn't. So it was the Panzer 5 sound, the sound that it makes when the engine fails. Then you have the sound that the engine makes when you stop the engine. The sound, this one is actually important, is the sound that it makes based on the RPM. So you have a sound for idle, you have a sound for low RPM, and you have a sound for high RPM, and you have the same thing for the exterior. And then you have the track sound. So this one is also affected. So you have a sound for the inside and a sound for the outside. It is the track sound it is the track sound that you have based on speed. So you just plug it in here, and that should be your sound setup. And then set the proper sound for firing the cannon that was done in the weaponry, and set the proper track sound is what we've just discussed here. So that takes us to completion on the weaponry and the inventory, and I'll see you guys in the next video where we will cover the effects and the recs. See you there.